Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Zombie Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Hope everybody had a good night. I had a good night. The so Good morning. This is this is a good day. It really is. It's a good day, and it's a new day. You know so last night, if you didn't catch it, I did a an interview with my daughter, and it's been uh, it's been surreal from the very first day that my daughter and I sort of linked up. It's been surreal. It's been one moment after another that's just been absolutely bizarre, and it's pretty obvious that that's my kid, and it's funny because I was not there to have any kind of a hand whatsoever in raising her, and it's sort of the nature versus nurture thing. Whereas my son, I was there until he was 11 every day. And when the time comes that I do the interview with my son, you're going to say the exact same thing. It's obvious that both of my kids lean pretty hard on communication and are pretty comfortable with that. It's just bizarre. So many things have got me thinking, but about seven of you, I think seven of you, might be eight, because yesterday and today are already blending into one another. But a handful of you reached out to say, "I really need help, but I don't want to. I don't want to talk to you or bother you until your daughter leaves." Number one, that's ridiculous. Number two, there is a one of the biggest pluses of this visit, more than anything else, has been my daughter witnessing the boat in a way that she never has before. You have to understand that for 19 years, my daughter was told that the only thing that I care about in life is me. That literally there's nothing else I care about. And the reason that I wasn't there was because I didn't want to be. And, and the reason for that is I'm so self-centered that I don't realize there's other people in the world. And she has to try to square that with the person that she knows. And because obviously I'm a little different than the description, but for her to watch the interactions with me and the lifeboat. And I don't mean sitting in the room watching. I just mean well aware of exactly what's going on. When Dad gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning to to get the lifeboat ready for the 5 o'clock show, and he went to sleep at, come on, squirrel, and he went to sleep last night at about 12:30 because she and I hung out till really late last night. There's a real benefit to her seeing the lifeboat. It really has been a benefit. So if you feel like you need the captain, right? If you need to talk to me, I don't want you to hold off until my daughter leaves. Number one, there's a real benefit for her realizing that I'm not the center of my own universe. You understand? So, cat, don't do that. Oh man. Squirrel just wants to knock things down today. She was like moving expensive things to the edge of the desk. Squirrel, this is so unprofessional, but come on, get down here. The cat is just a menace. She really is. She's a menace. But I had a great time yesterday. I really did. It was an awful lot of fun to have my kid here and be able to do an interview of sorts. It was a lot of fun, and I think she really did. She really enjoyed it too, and I think she got a much different perspective on me, on the channel, and my sobriety. The other half of her family are all sober people, right? We were horrendous drug addicts, me and her mother, and they're all sober too, but there's a very different path between their sobriety and my sobriety, and how we choose to remain sober. You know, the way that I choose to remain sober is working with people who need to get sober, and I think it's a real plus that she's been able to see that. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things because I found myself yesterday feeling really guilty. Truthfully, I really struggled with guilt yesterday because I know the number of people whose situation, especially, you know, vis-a-vis children, you know, your situation is where mine was prior to being able to get Cedar back in my life. And I started going back through journals because I remember writing about, you know, that's the beautiful thing about journals. I could go back to October of the year that she and I were able to talk, meet for the first time, and start reading all of the things that I wrote down. And if I go a little bit further back, there were every weekend there would be somebody going to visit their kid, and they would come back from visiting, usually with a Polaroid, you know, with a picture of them and their child. And I never once was upset at those people. I definitely felt a level of, I was jealous, but not in the sense of the kind of jealous that, I don't know how to explain this, but I mean, I wasn't hateful. I wasn't, you know, envious. I wished it had been me, but it never made me bitter or unhappy. So, you know, it's kind of yesterday was a trip, because I do know that there are a lot of people, many of whom I know by name, that have really been struggling with this exact same thing, right? They've been struggling with their children not being a part of their life, or their children being addicted to drugs, or any number of ailments that make that really tough. And you know, I right before we went live yesterday, I actually talked about this, you know, with my daughter. I thought, I really don't want this to bum anybody out. I don't want this. And, you know, my daughter's response was, I think you should probably be telling these people how long this was just a dream, and how long it was just a dream for the both of us. And I don't know, it's a pretty, I thought it was a pretty astute little thing from my daughter, because this really was, you know, last night's filming was 19 years in the making. And for the lion's share of those 19 years, we were estranged. We were not together. And you don't know what you don't know. It's the perfect example of what you imagine reality to be, and then what reality is. Because for both of us, we were just convinced that the other hated, you know, I hated her, she hated me. And I remember when we were first talking on the phone, and she started to sort of break down the fact that she really thought, she was shocked that I wanted to be a part of her life. And I was trying to make her realize just how stupid that was, with respect. And I said, you know, I just want you to know that for the first 8 or 9 years, I mailed you Christmas cards, birthday cards, you know, Valentine's Day cards, and they would mail them back. They being the caregivers of my daughter would just turn around and mail them back, and which was, you know, painful stuff. But I said to her, I want you to know I have all of them. I never threw any of those out, because I knew that maybe someday we would meet, and I would want you to know that I was trying that entire time. But I have a box full of cards, and you know, for all of this time. And my daughter said, I got a box like that for you too. It I didn't see that coming. And I didn't see that coming because we're the smartest things on the planet, drug addicts. There's nothing smarter than a drug addict. So I knew exactly what was going to happen. I had spent 17 years, going through this in my head. And the bottom line is we don't know squat. We really don't. We don't have any idea. And the best that we can hope for is just to chug forward and wait to see what happens. You may be someone who believes like me that there's a grand design to all of this. And if that's the case, then just know that you have no idea what the creator's got in store. No idea. None. If you went back 3 years ago and dropped all of this on me and said, hey, this is what's going to happen to you in the next 3 years, mentioning my daughter, the boat, what time I get up in the morning, the amount of this that I do, I would have thought you were insane. I really would have. And on a flip side of that too, because I squirrel off, but I squirrel off for reasons, and very often if I don't sort of tap on the squirrel, then I'm going to forget exactly what I was talking about. So the YouTube guru who has been taking a look at everything we do on the lifeboat to try to advise us to make this thing kind of bigger and better. The very first piece of advice that I got from his office, the genius from this office, and these people are pros, right? Like, they know YouTube. They don't have a damned idea about sobriety, but they know YouTube. They said, when you go back and look, if you back up a month and you look at the analytics of the lifeboat, we were getting about 380 or 390 views a day, right, on one video. Now we get about 350 on 2 videos. And what he said is, if you really want to blow this channel up, what you're going to do is you're going to start filming 1 video a week. Hey, don't do that. And I said to him, you do understand what we do here, right? You understand the concept of what we do here. And I said, this has probably been a waste of time. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but we're thinking about 2 completely different things. I want to bring more people in so that there's less people out there struggling with addiction that don't have anybody to help, and that they don't have a support group or a support family. And that's why I want to bring people in. I don't want to bring them in so I can go, hey, you know how many views we got today? I said, I was well aware, and I was well aware before I shot the first live in the morning that I was going to cut our views in half. Because when you put up that much content, nobody feels an urgency to stop by. If you do 1 a week, they want to see what Tommy had to say. But if you do 2 a day, they don't feel the need to check in. And I'm not bummed out by that. I really am not. Because the purpose of these videos is not what he thinks the purpose of these videos is. The purpose of these videos is to provide a family for those who don't have a family. And I don't mean a brother and sister. I mean a support family. There are a lot of people for whom the concept of having somebody there for them through the tough times, the bad times, the worst times is completely foreign. So I don't much care if this thing just doesn't grow at the speed that this consultant thinks it should. Can I get a 5x5? Hey. Could I get a 5x5? Did my cat just disconnect something? Oh, squirrel. 5x5, okay. Good, because I said sound had gone down. But sometimes that's just, it's unique to the person, not the channel. So that was the genius of the people that I'm actually paying money. Oh, thank you, cat. And these are people that I'm actually paying money to. I'm actually giving these people cash to tell me how to make the boat bigger and better. I think he probably has a handle on what I'm trying to do because I came unglued. I was not particularly friendly, but it dovetails into exactly what I'm talking about, right? There are going to be a lot of times in your life when you're feeling like a jackass and that every single thing you're trying to do is failing. You're going to feel like every single thing that you are trying to accomplish is heading in the opposite direction. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels, and what you want out of life, or what you want out of the dream, or what you want out of the relationship, or what you want out of whatever is never going to happen. And we have this sort of, and I was the king of it. We get this sort of fatal mentality, that if it's not happening on the timetable that we have set out, then we're failing. If sobriety teaches us anything, it's that failure is when you don't get back up. Right? That's it. I got 6 emails yesterday. 6 emails between my 2 email addresses of people who relapsed yesterday. And I'll tell you, that's a high day, right? 6 relapses that's a big number for the boat. But we get 2 or 3 every day. Every day. Day in, day out, right? That's 14 people a week on average, every single week, who relapse. Doesn't mean any of them failed. The fact that they're reaching out and saying to me, hey, I got high, or hey, I got loaded, or whatever the case may be, you realize that the display of honesty that takes really goes against every single thing that you hear when people talk about addicts, right? Denial and lying about their use. Amazingly, where there's no chance I could just pop by their apartment and see how they're doing, everybody decides to be communication beating addiction. Yeah, everybody has been completely honest, and to me, that's what makes this so damn unique. That's what makes this so different. But had I not had the stuff happen with Cedar that happened, I don't know that the boat would still be in business. For real. Because I really had this attitude for a very long time that, you start hanging your head and just going, yep, knew this was going to happen. This is going to fail because, that's who I am and blah, blah, blah. When my kid came back in my life, I sort of got this, I got this piece about how, insert your favorite thing here, right? The universe, God, whatever. But how it all works, and how for me, patience is what I'm lacking more than anything in the world. But I've kind of learned, and I'm no guru, and I'm no genius or any of that crap, and that's not what I'm trying to come across as. But I have truthfully learned that there's something really cool to kicking back and watching what happens. For real. Knowing full well that I don't have a damn clue. I don't have a damn clue how this is gonna work out. I don't have any idea. I know it's not gonna work out the way that I thought it was, but I know that I'll be sitting in front of this thing, and I'll be talking to people who need to get sober or stay sober. I'm, the dream was never really about, I didn't want a silver play button. I swear to you, at no point, during this did I ever think about that. And I remember having a very serious conversation with Johnny, with my brother, and with Mark Wages, in the beginning. And, what are your goals kind of a thing? And I said, if we could get 1,000 people, if we could ever get to the point where there were 1,000 people that were, wanted to change their life enough to hit subscribe on a sobriety channel, I think that would be epic. I think that would be huge. And now, we're up to, we're closing in on 4,000. It's about 4 times bigger than I ever hoped that this could be. And it's, again, I don't have a clue where it's going. I don't. I am absolutely on this boat the same way everybody else is. I know that. I know that this is to do this right. There has to be a constant presence. A person has to have the opportunity to pop on any morning they feel like getting wasted, and then toward the end of the day, they need the opportunity 7 days a week to be able to just pop on and say, "I'm having a really bad time, family," and let the crew here do exactly what the hell this crew does, right? Which is keep people where they need to be, where they need to be. If not for the boat, I wouldn't be clean since the 21st of February. Good for you, Diary. I'm proud of you, man. And Blue says, without the boat, I wouldn't have made it to the funeral. You know, I hope everybody understands that when people are saying without the boat, it's not without me. And I mean that. There's a huge difference between those two things. The whole without Tommy thing, not only would it make me really uncomfortable, but it wouldn't be accurate. That's the gospel truth. Without this crew, I'd be making videos. I'd be making 5-minute videos, and I'd be posting them. And you know what? We'd gotten a hell of a lot bigger, but we wouldn't have done anything to help anybody. We really wouldn't have. This crew determined that that this channel needed to be live. That was not me, and that was not Mark Wages. That was the crew. The crew named this. You know, every single thing that has happened on this channel has been the result of an awful lot of people who are all pulling in the same direction. And I'm super happy with the direction this boat is going. And the dream that that was the sobriety channel, the dream is becoming a reality. That said, I have no idea what that reality means. I don't have any idea what that reality means. I don't know how this ends. Right? I don't even know how this levels out. I don't know what this is going to be in a year. But I guarantee you that we're going to be here for each other. For real. There have been a couple of really crazy things happen. And it has necessitated me sitting down and saying, good God, was that really what we want? I really like how this thing goes. I really like how everybody takes care of one another. And there's just so much about this that I find absolutely astounding and unlike anything else that I have ever seen. You know, that really is the truth. Now, that said, we had two unique things happen. One was a possible sponsorship of the lifeboat. And again, I will happily tell everybody to F off if they want to go down the road of selling out. I have wanted to sell out since the very first day of this channel, and that will never change. However, how we sell out is kind of super important. The reason for selling out is so that this thing could bring in enough money where if somebody needed to go to a 30 or a 90-day rehab, we could write the check for that. Or we have a relationship with rehabs across the country that will take them in just because they're crew on the lifeboat. And there are some government grants out there of just staggering amounts of money, billions of dollars that are sitting in accounts that no one's tapping into, that we literally could tap into. And we could use that cash to do whatever we needed to do for recovery. We're not buying cars. We're not flying around the country to hang out. But to get somebody into a rehab or to pay for somebody's medication if they can't, that kind of thing, that's kind of a possibility. But the people that wanted to sponsor us, they're a big deal. Like, they're a big deal. And I promise you that as soon as I can, I am going to have a long talk with all of you and tell you about this. As of right now, I have been asked not to in any way, so I'm doing it. I'm just not saying names. But The it's a it's a pretty big name national deal, and we're pretty excited about the concept of this, providing it doesn't screw up the lifeboat. And that's one of those things that that now I think about and I never did before. Because I always just wanted this thing to be bigger and bigger and bigger, because I thought the bigger it is, the more people we can help. But if it just becomes a behemoth and we can't actually help anybody, and you don't know anybody in the chat and that kind of thing, that would suck, right? That would suck. So there are opportunities that are going to come down the pike that I'm going to have to pop on here and say, what do you guys think? Because as I've said from the very beginning, we have really relied on the crew of the lifeboat to help make decisions for this channel, and I think that also makes us kind of friggin' unique. Honestly, I don't never really had I never really had a super big desire to kind of run anything having to do with this. I definitely wanted to be the guy sitting and talking, because I spent 8 years having to be silent. I spent 8 years wanting to talk about this. Like, it was all I wanted to talk about, and I was in an environment where there weren't too many people that wanted to hear that, at all. You can really piss off the wrong crowd if you try to jump on the soba bandwagon. I mean, I had a group of people that I worked with in one yard, a big one, but that was at the very end of my sentence. The vast majority of the time, you're just in a hateful environment. But this is definitely what I want to do. But we're just going to have to get together and really. I turned down an interview that if I told you about, you guys might go postal. But I don't think we could have handled an interview of this size. If we were to get on if we were to do an interview in front of, say, 5 million people, that really might be a bad idea. And I know that might sound stupid, but if normally you can figure you're going to get 1 to 1.85% of any audience that actually watches for any length of time about you are going to come and hit the subscribe button. And if all of them showed up and they heard, these people will help, they'll do anything, the number of emails I got would, go from 4,000 a month to 50,000 a month, and it would happen like that. And so I am absolutely kind of pumping the brakes a little bit with the growth. And a lot of this, by the way, is this consultant sees the vision of what we have. He just wants our vision to be a hell of a lot bigger. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm on the same page with him on that. I do want to reach as many people as possible, but I want to be able to be the lifeboat. I don't want to lose the. I don't. Well, it's another great. I would have died if I had to do my interview with 50,000 people watching. Yeah, I mean that's the same kind of thing that I'm talking about. It would really. I would never want this to be so big that the people who helped make this would feel intimidated talking about what's going on in their life. Now, does that mean that we don't help as many people? Probably. I mean, honestly, it probably does. But the people that we're going to help, we're actually going to help. Like we can get sort of intimately involved with what's going on. I look out right now. I kid you not. Like I look out right now. And today I have the chat up on the big screen in front of me. So as I go down and I see the names popping up, I know what's going on in all of your lives. I mean, with very few exceptions. I can look up there and know exactly where you're at, what's going on, what you do during the day in many circumstances. So it, you think you're smart and you think you're doing the right thing. And this bringing on this consultant, I think, was a really good idea. I really do. Not really spitting out to him exactly how I wanted this growth to happen was a terrible idea. And that's on me. But I didn't think he could deliver the way he's delivering. like the possible interviews with people that are really, really have a large audience, and have a large audience that have been talking about what we talk about. So it's not like it would be completely foreign and the audience would be like, why the hell are we talking about, sobriety or drugs? No, this is an audience that would have had a handle on that. Hey, Spanx, good to see you. And yeah, so that's all I got to say about that, for real. Don't lose sight of the dream. One of the when I was making this thumbnail this morning, and I was thinking about this, the dream of having my kid back, the dream of having both of my kids, people I've never had my son and my daughter under my same roof at the same time. May sound crazy, right? Isn't it? That's bizarre. It really is. That's bizarre. But I don't know. I don't know how I'll get through that. I'll probably just cry the entire time they're here, and it won't be any fun anyway. But the day is coming, and probably pretty soon, where I interview my son, and you're going to find that there's a whole hell of a lot of similarities between my two kids, which is really odd, right? Because I only raised one of them, but it really is an interesting it's an interesting experiment in life, so to speak. Yeah. So once this kind of levels out with all of the with all the stuff with the consultant, I'm gonna tell you exactly who we were, what our opportunities were, and I'll explain why I backed up, and I think most of you are gonna go, yeah, it was probably a good decision, and there'll be a couple who are gonna go, there are people that might die because they're not going to find the boat, and that that'll keep you awake. I mean, kidding, no kidding, that will keep you awake. And you know what, Tommy, you're right. See, what Tommy just said is kind of clutch. He said, "I've seriously enjoyed watching the growth of the lifeboat, and I will continue to enjoy it." You know what? And I agree with you, and I've absolutely loved it. And when you're really having a growth spurt, if you've got 200 or 300 subscribers that are coming in a month, that is really that's a lot of people, right? For this channel, it's a lot of people, and to sort of get them all acclimated, get a chance to meet them all, and get everybody sort of meshing, that's a tall order. If I wake up one day and there's 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers that came in during the night, that's going to be a really difficult thing to keep track of, and I would really, really not want that to happen. So that's that, so to speak. That's that, and it really comes back to the dreams thing. There was a time, if you went back 5 years ago, that I didn't think anything I dreamed was ever going to come true, because most of the things that I had dreamed in life, when I got really close, and I used to get really close, I would sabotage it. I would figure out a way to make that fail so that I could get back to failure, because failure made sense to me. God, it's got to sound so stupid, doesn't it? But addicts, Tommy, that's exactly, there's going to be a whole lot of discussions about things just like that, like a welcoming crew, like a steering committee, like people that, like people put in place that have the opportunity to make this thing work in a normal and a healthy way. So that's going to be coming too, and there'll be some community posts and tabs on that. Madman, you're good with those big, hard to spell words. Well, the spell check can do wonders. Actually, you know what? I can't even use spell check, so I shouldn't joke. That sounds familiar to my situation, Tommy. I feel if I'm succeeding, I'm not living like I'm supposed to. Abnormal. What really happens is, you just start feeling like you're uncomfortable in your own skin again. And we're very accustomed to feeling uncomfortable in our own skin and then getting high, right? What we're not accustomed to is feeling uncomfortable in our own skin because everywhere we look, there is, things are moving in the right direction. I'm not used to it. And as stupid as it sounds, we really do want to get back to base, which is, failure or whatever your base is. And the best example of this in the world, hands down, the best example of this in the world are the people that I work with who are gamblers. Because it's so easy you get a visual in your head of what somebody who has a gambling problem looks like. And why they do what they do. And you start wondering if what it comes down to is they're hanging on every single pull of that slot machine or every single, when they get the cards dealt out, before they turn those cards over, that excitement of knowing that they might win. That's always been my assumption. And that really isn't it. They are addicted to losing. They're absolutely addicted to losing. And, one gentleman in particular that I work with pretty routinely now said he went in one day and he doesn't play machines. This is the guy that plays tables, so he sits across from a human being and watches that human being take his money. But he went in and couldn't get a seat at a table. So he started playing some Keno. And if you know what Keno is, it's like a lottery, 50 numbers, 20 balls come down or 10 balls or something like that. So this guy hits second time he pops, he hits $80,000, 80 grand. And then he proceeded to lose $80,000 because he didn't know how to walk out of a casino with $2,000 in his pocket or $10,000 in his pocket or $15,000. He was so accustomed to the feeling of, God, I had it and I blew it. It's bizarre, right? Absolutely bizarre. How do you wrap your brain around that? The way you wrap your brain around that is you apply it to whatever's going on in your life. And that was me. When I was working as a public speaker, the best gig I ever had as a public speaker was $30,000 a month. And I'm not telling you this to brag. It was $30,000 a month base plus commission. And the commission was based on a $499 sale, that people buy. That's what you're doing, is trying to talk people into buying a business opportunity for $499. But a good month, you should do between 80 and 90 grand. Now, you think about that kind of money and you think, I don't care how hard you're being a jackass. You can't spend that much money. No matter what you're doing that's stupid, there's still going to be a surplus. And I was married at that point and there was a surplus, but it was really damn small. And I mean, if you made 80 grand a month, you'd be lucky if you had 2 grand in the bank at the end of that month. ZW, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's a bizarre affliction that we have, people. It is a bizarre affliction. And the more that you kind of understand exactly what's going on, and I know you got to get sick of hearing me say it. You really got to get sick of hearing me say it. But the brain is absolutely not on board. And when we say that, it's a hard thing to wrap your dome around, right? I mean, everything we do, we figure the brain runs all the entire show, right? So as I'm talking to you about this and saying the brain is not your friend, it's the brain taking that in and listening, right? So this is a pretty brutal thing, but the difference is this. The frontal lobe of your brain that is listening to what I'm saying, processing it, and then thinking about it yourself, right? And how you feel about whatever it is I'm saying. That is that process takes place in a part of your brain that is your friend, right? The reactive part of your brain, the part that gets pissed, the part that throws things, the short fuse drug addict emotions that we are really bad at keeping in check. That part of the brain is what we need to get under control. And the easiest way to do that is through little stupid things that we talk about all the time that most people think, you know what, I want to get sober, but I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I want to get sober, but I'm gonna do 4 of the 8 things he talks about because the other 4 just seem stupid to me. If you take the time to journal every day, you can't journal from the emotional part of the brain. Doesn't work. The emotional part of your brain can't write. Right? So as you start shifting from the emotional part of your brain to the part of your brain that actually is going to engage your hand, your thoughts, all of that, to put it down on paper, it's not just a matter of having a record of why you screwed up. You can go back and read. I got 8-9 years worth of journals upstairs, and like with Allie being, it's one of those situations where if you kept track of every single screw up you've made, you have an opportunity to actually fix problems. But that's not, the entire purpose of this. The entire purpose of this is to get control and learn how to shift your brain from autopilot, which sucks, into a controlled thought process. And everything else we talk about is the same thing. You got to get outside and get a little exercise. Exercise is great and it helps you go to sleep. But when you're walking outside, you are getting bombarded, right, with every one of your senses. You're smelling different things. You're seeing different things. You're hearing different things, right? All of those things are engaged at once. We tend to, as addicts, park our asses in the same place for the same, every day, doing the same thing, staring at the same 4 walls. And then we're shocked when we do the same thing day after day. If you start doing things and structuring your life in such a way that you are forcing the frontal lobes to go to work, you're going to find it a hell of a lot easier to stay sober. Plain and simple. You're going to find it a hell of a lot easier to stay sober. But most of us won't do it. Most of us won't. And the reason is we're creatures of habit. And what we're asking you to do is create a new habit. And we really get into the old habit because it's easy as hell, isn't it? Right? I buy 6 of these things that come in a bottle and I drink them. Right? It's a pretty easy thing, and I've been doing it for a very long time. Or I call up a guy who meets me in a parking lot, hands me 15 balloons. I go home, throw one of them on a piece of tin foil, light it, and inhale it. Right? That was the standard operating procedure for about 3 decades. When it comes time to stop something you've been doing for 30 friggin' years, you have to have something in place to replace it. If not, you will go insane. You will feel so uncomfortable in your own skin because the part of your brain that wants normalcy is screaming, right, at the top of its lungs, just go get a friggin' bag. Right? Go back to what we know. Make us comfortable. Do this. Do it. And that part of the thought process is the reason we're uncomfortable in our own skin. Plain and simple. It's that overwhelming sense of doom that comes from not feeding the buzz. So if you structure your day so that there's very little downtime, you're going to be successful. I watched so many people who got incarcerated, showed up at federal prison for whatever, and decided, I don't want to leave the same way I walked in. Right? You find all of these people that were just so damn serious about changing their life and had absolutely no problem doing it. And the reason they had no problem doing it is because at 5 o'clock in the morning, the federal government popped their door with the loudest sound you've ever heard. Snap, right? And they go right down the line. Snap, 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 snap. Wake up the dead. And at 5:20, they were going to feed you. And at 5:30, you were going to be back in your unit. I'm not kidding you. 1,100 people were going to file through there and eat and get back to their units in 15 minutes. But every single part of that day was structured. So if you didn't want to be with the dope crew, there was an entire routine built for the last 5 decades. They've had this built. All they got to do is shove you into it. So they got you a job you're going to go to instantly, right? They have rec periods that you're going to go to whether you want to or not. And these people all do fantastic. And they go, when I get out, this is going to be easy. When you get out, there's not going to be anybody there telling you what to do. There isn't going to be any structure whatsoever when you get out. It's going to be a free-for-all. There's not going to be anybody waking you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. There isn't going to be anybody doing anything. So it's never a shocker. If you're in there on a 6-year sentence or a 7-year sentence, to watch somebody walk out the door and know damn well they're going to be back in the next 5 to 6 months. And most of them violate within the first few days. Just jump off the rails. And, it truthfully just gets down to routine. It gets down to programming. All of the things that we talk about, which start getting really, really boring. God, how many times has Tommy talked about this? Because there's about 5 things, right? The entire subject matter here is 5 things. I could tell you cool stories. I could tell you, talk about banks I robbed. You throw in a couple of bank robbery stories for laughs, and then you throw in some poignant stuff. I interview some people who are so open about what they've done in their life that it really makes you think. Diary. He says in 18 months I watched 2 different guys come back 3 or 4 times each. Absolutely. In the feds, you have to go to a halfway house, right? You do a supervised release. So it's not like you get to go home. That just doesn't happen. So these guys get out, go to a halfway house, and get stoned the first day that they're there. And in funnier cases, I watched a guy leave who was my cellmate. And he was leaving from the segregated housing unit. He was in the shoe. And he's laying lines out like this on the desk. And at this point, I'm already sober. And I said to him, you know that when you get to the halfway house, they're going to give you a piss test, right? As soon as you walk in the door, they're going to ask you to take a urinalysis. And he's like, no, why would they do that? I'm like, because of idiots like you. They're going to assume that since you had to get on an airplane and a bus, you probably walked outside and looked for anybody that looked like they might be doing something wrong and tried to hand them a pocket full of money. Sure as hell. Dude shows up and fails a drug test, not for what he did on the street, but for what he did inside. And you know what it comes down to, for real? And Diary of a Madman will back me up. What happens is these people have zero respect at all for what freedom is. And it's the exact same principle with addicts, right? To be sober is to be free, whether you realize it or not. To be sober is to be free. It's to no longer be under the thumb of a chemical. It's the ability to write your own routine. It's the ability to decide what you're going to do in life without the monkey on your back saying, this is what you're going to do in life, right? We're going to do dope, and here's what we're going to do it. We're going to do this today, and here's how we're going to do it. It's the exact same principle. It is the exact same principle. The only difference is that one of those jail cells you can smack on all 4 walls, and the other one, you build those. You build those walls, and then you park your ass inside of them voluntarily. And it's terrifying. It's the saddest thing in the world. It really is. Yesterday, I was talking to Cedar after we did the show, and she said to me, how many emails do you answer a day? I said, depends on the day. Some days we get a lot of them, and some days, we get a little bit, and a little bit is 5 or 10. On a day that there's a lot, it might be 50. And she said, it doesn't kill you when somebody falls off the wagon? And I said, yeah, no, it does. It absolutely does. But I think and people always say, you got to be careful. I don't want to see this. If you knew what it felt like when somebody doesn't fall off the wagon, if you knew what it felt like when somebody sends you a picture of them with their kids, who they have not had visitation with in 10 or 15 years, because they've been wasted the entire time. One of those success stories can buy you 6 months of BS, because it's just such an amazing feeling. It's just such an amazing feeling. It really is. And it's worth all of the other crap that we have to put up with, and just know that, hey, Ken Foy, good to see you. Just know that you're all a part of this, a very large part of this. Sometimes it feels like we come here, we hang out, we all get along. The number of people that we are helping every day is it's staggering. It really is. It's an unbelievable experience if you're taking the time to watch it. I know this sounds silly, but believe it or not, since I got my dog in January, I've been getting up fairly early and going to bed early. I've actually been tired most of the time. I don't think that that sounds silly. And there's science out the wazoo to back that up. There are even books written and concerning sobriety and pets. We talk all the time. How many times have we talked about, one of the biggest problems that we have is you become the center of your own universe, right? It's nothing more important. Well, all of a sudden you got something you have to take care of. And this thing relies on you 100%, right? You got to take it outside. You got to feed it. You got to give it affection. Every single way, shape, and form. This thing needs you. Needs you. That feeling is life-changing for an addict. It really is. There's a reason that we really, sort of hammer home the more, we see much higher success rates in people who have pets. Plain and simple. So no, that makes perfect sense to me, man. 3 of my chickens are registered as emotional support animals. So do you rotate them through? Right? Do you work with one chicken one day and then I get up, first thing I do is feed and water my cats and turn on our turtles' lights and feed them? Absolutely. Luke Skywalker says it's the little things. It's the structured things, right? All of these little things turn out to be a routine. All of these really little things, and you don't think about it at the time, but it's the same thing with me. I've been doing this long enough, and I've always said, sometimes you can get a habit in 12 days, and sometimes it takes 285 days, right? That was the research that we read. Getting up to do this show, I think, took about a week. I have no problem whatsoever jumping out of bed at 4, even if I went to bed at midnight or 12:30. Well, last night was one of those nights because my daughter, and I were up talking. But excuse me. All of those little things end up becoming a routine, and a routine becomes a program, and a program is what you replaced your old program with. And you know your old program. Mine was get up, steal, sell, buy dope, get high, rinse and repeat. Right? That was my entire life. First thing I do when I wake up is turn on the lifeboat. All right. True story. Spanx, I love you. I really do. I'm really looking forward to doing an interview with my son. And my son is, working on being an old man. I will absolutely throw him in front of the camera. It's a little bit different. I'm so glad I found you. Well, we're glad you found us too. That's the truth. We are glad that you found us. And you know what, people? If there are people who really believe that there are coincidences all over the place, and there's people who really believe that, boy, you know what? Serendipity just happened to be coming across. I don't think there's any friggin' nothing happens without reason. I believe that. You don't have to believe whatever you want, right? But this is one of those things that if you're here and you think that, I got really lucky that I came across that. Man, luck is the residue of design. There had to be something. John Doe, the great thing? The great thing is all you got to do is when we're done, a little red ball that goes across, just slap it all the way to the left and you'll catch all of this. When I quit smoking at 30 years old, I would get up at 6 a.m. and walk 2 miles before I went to work. Felt great. Blue is heading to a funeral. So thoughts and prayers with you for, travel safely. Please. Please travel safely. Let me see here. Sorry, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay. So, you know what? We find ourselves very often as addicts, and I'll leave with this one. This will be the Tommy's wisdom of the day, right? Take it or leave it. It is a really difficult thing as a drug addict to look back over the course of your life at the what ifs, at the what might have beens, right? And I've always the saddest quote to me in the entire world is Of all the words of mice and men, the saddest is what might have been. And as addicts, like I have a friend, I have a very close friend who, and I've told the story, but we had an opportunity. We had an opportunity to basically corner the market on apps. Before there was an app store, before anybody had even heard of what these things were, we got pitched on them. And they wanted $5 million. And at the time we were doing this, we had it. It would not have been a problem whatsoever to give them $5 million. The first app that they showed us was to become Angry Birds. True story. And they both of these people were from Japan, and they were talking about how far ahead they were compared to us. And whatever you have right now, our technology is 8 years or 7 years in front of yours. So the phones you're getting right now, we stopped using that technology, half a decade or longer ago. And he talked about how, you go on the subway and you watch people going to work, and every single adult is sitting there playing these video games. And I'm looking at the two other people in the room like, okay. And we went outside and I said, what do you think? And all of us at the same time went, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Adults are going to be playing video games on their phones, are they? What a bunch of idiots. So I assure you that we could have made enough money to buy Miami if we had put up that cash. We could have, the amount of money that we would have made would have been frightening. It really would have been frightening. And of the three of us, one of us has never gotten over it. I'm not kidding you. This person walks through every single day, and a good portion of that day is spent going, oh my God, I blew it. No question. No question we blew it. But if you sit and concentrate on those things, right? Learn from them. I promise you, if ever I'm in a position where I'm doing venture capital and somebody has an idea that doesn't seem to make any sense to me, I'm going to figure out somebody more intelligent than myself to talk to about it. I'll bring in consultants, I'll do whatever. But I learned a lot. I learned to be way more open-minded. I learned that I'm not the smartest person on the planet. And I learned that if you lose $1 billion, it's just like a relapse. You dust your ass off, you get up and you start walking again. It's, by the way, because of what I did in public speaking was business opportunity related, I could sit here for 4 hours and tell you one after another of people that had the opportunity to make more money than you could wrap your brain around who didn't. People that just said, yeah, I don't see it. Right? It's one of those things that happens in this country every single day. Every single day. And around the world, it happens so often, it's staggering. Right? It really is. It's staggering. However, if by some chance I had said, you know what? You guys don't see it. I can get the $5 million, and I put up all of that money myself, we wouldn't be here right now. I promise you that. Because I would have died two and a half decades ago. I would have been dead. There's no way in hell I could have handled that kind of money and that kind of success. And if you can't handle 60 to 80 grand a month, and you got to do everything you can to get rid of it, what are you going to do with $5 million a month? How are you going to figure out a way to lose when you got $5 million a month? And what happens is we watch it with rock stars. We watch it with actors and actresses. People who just absolutely drug themselves to death because it's impossible to cope with that kind of success. I don't know. It is a bizarre world that we live in. You know what I mean? It really is. It is absolutely a bizarre world that we live in. Alrighty, people. I am going to be back 12 hours from right now. I got to stop doing that. I will be back 11 hours from right now. Not really good with the whole math thing. He's talking to us. What did I miss? Am I pissing somebody off? Because I do on a pretty regular basis. Chances are If you think I'm talking to you, I'm not. And that's sage advice across the board. Because if you knew, I swear to God, this is the gospel truth. Every single time I do one of these, I'll get 4 emails from people that will say to me just that. Were you talking to me? Was that thing supposed to be, pointed at me? The only time I have ever done a show where I've pointed it at anybody is myself. I don't do shows where I look at a person. I don't do that. I promise you I don't. All you're going to do is piss off people that you care greatly for. I'm never going to make somebody an example on this boat. Trust and believe. If anyone's going to be an example, it's going to be me. Because I know that I'm not going to crap all over myself for doing it, right? So, 11 hours from right now on right here on the deck of the boat. All right? I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. And that's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. Or good morning. Still dark out. Adios.